So I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that people investigating the spider web mystery have been restarting Red Dead Redemption 2 from the beginning. I'm no different. However, I am slightly different in the fact that I have actually found something, and it relates to the Curse of Valentine. Unfortunately, what I've found leads me to believe that the Curse of Valentine isn't where the ghost train is sending us, and that it's actually pointing us towards Strawberry, but that's another video. So what have I found? Well, I've found how to start the Curse of Valentine mission, and I've got the answer to the first part of that mission. So in order to start the whole Curse of Valentine, you have to do the Valentine mission, the one where you take the ladies into Valentine. Now, if you do the fight at the saloon first, it will take away this Valentine mission, and that will actually lead to Karren doing guard duty, which means she doesn't have the conversation with Marybeth where they talk about the Curse of Valentine. So you do have to do them in a specific order to trigger the mission, or at least that's what I believe. I haven't been able to get it to trigger if I've done the fight in the saloon, so that's my presumption. By all means, please check it out, and if you find something different, let me know. So first, you do the mission to Valentine, and when you complete that mission, if you head back to Valentine, you'll find the gunsmith says this.
All the trouble in Valentine, late, and people are starting to talk about the curse again.
And then what you need to do next is actually go back to camp, but rather than waiting for the conversation to happen, you then have to do Hosea's mission, which is the one with the legendary animals. Once you complete that mission, though, he will give you the choice to go back to camp or stay and do your own thing. But when you do go back to camp, either way, that is when Karren and Marybeth will have that conversation. As long as you're within a scenario where they are both together at their tent. So I thought initially it was only happening at 10:40 in the morning, but on one occasion I actually got it to trigger later. So it's not time specific as such, but it is reliant on them both being together at their tent, at their caravan, for it to trigger. Now, once you've triggered it, you need to know where to go next. And this is the location you need to go to. This is the tree that you need to start from. Now, I don't know what specifically triggers the event. I have triggered it a couple of times in my playthroughs, once 7 years ago and a couple of times now, but I can't say specifically what triggers it. You may even need to do the mission to Emerald Ranch with Hosea. I can't quite decide if that is necessary or not, but the only times I've triggered it, I have done the mission where you steal the coach for the fence at Emerald Ranch. And interestingly, all three of those missions have a choice at the end of whether you go back to camp with Hosea or whether you stay out. But it doesn't seem to make a difference which of those you do. It still seems to trigger regardless. So the question is, what do those choices do? I just said you get the choice to go back with Hosea, but one of them is your choice to save Jimmy Brooks or let him fall to his death. So, but effectively there's a choice you have to make in all three of those missions, or at the end of all three of those missions. I have no idea what that choice means, what its implications are. But if you trigger the event at the tree, what will actually happen is you will see 4 birds flying directly over you as if they're on some kind of bombing run, and they'll fly straight ahead and then bank and head to the Cornwall tar factory. Now they then do go out of sight, but if you follow them and go over there, it will lead you to this location, and you'll find that that location has crows all pecking at the ground. So this is where I believe the mass grave is for the massacre. And when you see the scene, it's almost as if you're having a vision. There is something overlaid the normal landscape which makes it stand out. And in fact, when you see it, it looks like there's a medicine wheel there, or the remains of a medicine wheel. Now I can hear you thinking, right, let's see the footage, Rubber Von Ducker. And that's where I get into a problem. The few times I've triggered it and seen it, I wasn't recording via the share button. And the one time I felt I'd done everything right to trigger it, and I'd got the share button pressed and I was recording. This happened. So as you can see, the crows gather and then they effectively dive bomb me. And I think Rockstar's done this on purpose. I think Rockstar has set something in the game to say, if video is recording, do this. If video is not recording, do the other. And the reason I say that, other than my own experience, is, again, going back 7 years ago when the game first came out, I remember this being a controversy at the time, that people were saying that this happened. People obviously asked for proof and they couldn't provide it. And so the community obviously concluded that it is someone just talking nonsense. So if you want to try this yourself, go ahead. And if you can, record it, but don't use the internal systems of a PlayStation or an Xbox, because it looks like Rockstar's looking to stop you from recording it that way. If you've got a friend, get them to film it with a mobile phone whilst you're playing. If you've got a HDMI splitter that works, unfortunately I don't, then try recording on another device so the game doesn't know that you're recording, and hopefully you'll get some footage which may even go viral. So that's the answer to the first mission. Another interesting thing I'm going to say, going back to my original playthrough 7 years ago, was very early on, I was hunting along the river and a cutscene cut in. Now, I wasn't expecting it, and I don't think I'd even seen a cutscene in the game at this point. And it was a cutscene on the river with something floating down the river. I didn't pay much attention because I was trying to work out what was going on because my controller had suddenly stopped working. But my controller had suddenly stopped working because there was a cutscene. And I was trying desperately to harvest an animal and having no joy. Another interesting aspect to this is once you see the cutscene, the two canoes that you find very early on down the bottom of the river disappear as well. Don't know whether that means anything. It's just an observation I've made. Although I do find it interesting that the canoe is going down this river, because I believe the next task we're going to have to do is to find the Native American artifacts. I believe this because I know I've seen the gunsmith at Valentine say artifacts are turning up all the time, which I believe is the trigger to say the artifacts are now in the game for you to go and find. Go find them. And I believe where you're going to find them is at the very top of this river, where there seems to be caves connected to the Native Americans. Most likely, this is an area where they lived maybe a long time ago before they moved onto the plane, but I believe this is where we'll find the artifacts. And then once we've completed that, I suspect you'll see the mask appear in the gun shop in Valentine, and I think we'll find that the traveller in the Cumberland Forest who tells us about the maps will appear, and that will trigger us looking for the maps. I can't say where the maps are going to be. I know in a previous video I mentioned that people had found a location in the game files. I also said I don't think that's going to be the final location. And given that they'd also said that the mass grave is at one location and I've found it somewhere else, it does look like that might be the case. That said, I didn't find anything at the site of the mass burial ground where it would allow me to inspect. Could have been my error, so please give it a go. But nothing came up to say inspect here, so either I missed it or it's not there and there may be a second site. That still leaves a conversation with the coach driver. I have no idea how that fits in, but given that the missions we do lead us to Emerald Ranch, there may be some connection there. But I did try using the stagecoach after doing the mission at Emerald Ranch and nothing occurred, so I still can't explain that part of a mystery. And equally, I don't know where the stranger who approaches you in the saloon fits in. Again, that's another bit that I just haven't managed to figure out where that goes, but presumably that has some significance as well. So that covers what I've learned about the Curse of Valentine. Sadly, like I say, I don't think it's connected to the spiderweb mystery. I think it's too early in the game for that to be the case. That said, with all the suggestions that time is connected, I can't rule it out, but it does seem like Strawberry is probably the destination that the ghost train is pointing us to. Be seeing you.